So here we are with the WATTSON guide, and I suppose I couldn't put it off any longer at this point. So I'm going to quickly cover what I'm going to talk about. So in this video, I'm going to give you tips on how to play WATTSON with her fences and her gen, and overall, as well as how to play her more aggressively as a character, being a defense character. So really in this video, I'm just going to hope that I can teach some people something about playing WATTSON, and hopefully you can learn how to play this character a little more aggro as well. So the first thing I'm going to cover here is how to fence inside buildings, and for this scenario we're just going to pretend that this is a building right here and all these openings are doors to get inside. The first thing you want to do is cover all entries with using as minimal fences as possible. So what I mean by this is stretch this fence as far as you can without making the second fence in front of a door, or the second node I should say. So instead of putting it right here and then right here and right here, what you should be doing is taking it off the first one and bringing it all the way down to here if you can.
Fence deployed.
The reason why I bring this up is because you're going to want to save as many nodes as you can to do something what I call spider webbing, and I'll explain how that works in a little bit. Now though, so pretending these are walls right here, this whole brick wall is actually a wall. Yeah, believe it or not, the brick is a wall. You're going to not connect them. Don't take this and bring it all the way down here because you don't need a fence on a wall. It's pointless. Save that for connecting something else to later. We're just going to go and pretend that we connect these two doors, and those doors are covered off. Now that all our entries and exits are covered, what you're going to do is now what I call spider webbing, which is you're going to connect all the open nodes you can and just bring them in a circle in the center.
Setting a fence.
So now that I have all my original nodes connected, what you want to do is just go down and start placing even more. Just make it look like a spider web. That's the whole idea, and this is why I call it a spider web. You just want it to look like your fences are a spider web.
Fence in position.
This is about what it should look like, although it's going to look different every time. This is the general idea of what your fences should look like once you use all 12 of them. So moving on now, we're going to talk about fencing in the open, and the whole idea of fencing in the open is to make your nodes hard to hit and show presence. So when you fence in the open, find any spots you can that have a little bit of cover behind it, even if it's small. It doesn't matter, as long as your nodes can't be seen. So if this were an open field in game that I was in, how I would fence was maybe hide a node in this bush, put one right here behind this, move it back a little bit, hide it right there, then move one over here.
I'm fencing.
And the whole idea, again, is to show presence. This most likely isn't going to stop anyone because there's going to be a spot where they can go around. But having these fences here let people know you're here, and it also makes you hard to see. Going on about fencing in the open, typically your general strategy is just to make a full circle. So what I would do is probably just ignore this rock as this is cover in itself. Start a new fence from over here.
Fence
and
in
just
position.
go all the way around and make a full circle. So now you know from a full 360-degree angle that you're going to be harder to see and you're showing presence in a full area. So in this little clip that I'm showing you here right now, I just want to show the difference of how it looks when you see someone behind a fence. And it doesn't seem like much, but this really does affect someone's aim when they're trying to shoot you. Using fences in the open just to make it harder to see really is a good strategy, and people should do it a lot more often. I'm going to show you guys a cool trick that you can do with WATTSON that nobody ever does, but it's really good. So say you come up these stairs, and this can work in any building that has doors. Say you're getting chased, and you're going to hold this door. What you can do before you go outside and hold the door is stay connected to your fence and then shut the door. So then when the enemy comes in and holds the door on the other side, you can place a fence, pull out your gun, and the door. The whole idea here is to make someone think they're safe holding the door and then to break the door on them with your fence. So you don't even have to kick it and they won't expect it. So that's just a quick tip on how to fence zip lines when you're at the top. Just put a node on one side and put a node on the other, and make sure that the fence will end up appearing on the zip line. So if someone zips on you, it'll end up hitting them. And there's no way for them to zip up unless they take a fence hit. And my last tip for fencing comes when you're outside of a building and you're trying to push a team inside. The whole idea here is that you want to fence the outside doors. So if you can't get in, then you have to make it so they can't get out. So if you do damage and you're holding a door and you need to get off the door, you'll have a fence on the door outside so they can't chase you outside, and it gives you time to reset or heal. Again, the key point here is it's not bad to fence outside doors when you're fighting a team who's inside the building. So now we're going to move on to WATTSON's ult, her generator, and I'm going to talk about where you should be placing these when you're set up. Again, we're going to start with being inside a building, so we're pretending this is a building again, and the first thing you're going to look for is where's the spot in this building that has the least amount of line of sight from enemies. So if I were to look here, my guess would be that the best gen spot would probably be right here. It means none of these
We
3
should move
doors
here.
right here would be having line of sight on my generator. It would only be these 2 spots right here. These are the only 2 places that could see the gen. But realistically, you're going to have 2 teammates who are going to be holding over here anyway, so you shouldn't have to worry about anyone shooting your gen right there. The big takeaway here is to just remember your gen needs to be in a spot that has the least amount of visibility to anyone outside of your building. Moving on to being in the open. Now, putting a gen down in the open is going to suck no matter what, because typically your gen in the open is going to get destroyed no matter where you put it. But again, you're just going to look for the most cover possible. And for me, it would probably be just over here, maybe in this corner. Now, this isn't a great spot by any means, but you really just have to remember that in the open, your gen's going to get destroyed no matter what. So you just have to find the spot that has the least amount of visibility on it. But a big tip I want to give about gens in the open is typically you don't want to place them until you're getting shot at. Really, I would say the only time you want a gen to be in the open is when you're getting shot or pushed, or when say a Gibby is ulting you, or someone who has a ult that can be destroyed by a WATTSON gen. Otherwise, I don't think this is something you even want down. So my next tip is using the gen while fighting, and you need to keep in mind that if, say I'm fighting this guy right here, I'm not really fighting a dummy.
I am a storm.
But you get the idea. I can put it down mid-fight and use this as cover and bounce around it just to avoid getting shot and having this take hits for me. I know very few people use the gen mid-fight because they don't want to get destroyed, but you gotta remember, if you die, your gen means nothing anyways. So don't be afraid to put down your gen and use it as portable cover. Now, another really good thing to do with gens is to block doors with them. So what I mean by this is just put a gen in front of a door so it can't be open.
No more storms.
If you have a gen in front of a door, realistically, you're going to play that door because you know this one has to be broke to get through. Not only do they have to break the door, they have to break the gen as well. So if I have a gen on that side, I'm going to play right here knowing that they have to come through this way unless they want to deal with this over here. To prove my point, if I was an enemy trying to get in right here, I'd be pretty annoyed considering I can't open the door. If they want to get in right here, they have to kick the door down. Now that I've covered all that I know about fencing and generators, I'm going to move on to playing WATTSON aggressively and how I play her. If you want to play her aggressively, you need to pre-fence where you're coming from and where you know you're going to end up going to. So here, I'm going to show you where I fence a walkway before I even end up fighting anyone. And the reason why I fence here is because I assume that once I get into a fight out here, I'm going to end up running this way again, and I already have a fence that's ready for them to run into. When you're playing WATTSON, you need to think ahead of your enemies. You need to think what they're going to do and what you're going to do ahead of time before it's even done. Now, this is all I really got in this guide because it's hard to explain to people how to play a character because I legitimately think the best way for you to learn is just to keep playing yourself. But hopefully you learned something out of this either way. And if you have any suggestions or tips on how I can improve on making guides, just leave them in the comment below and I'll try to look into it.
Healing my wounds. Recharging my shields. Just topping up the shields.
What?
The whole squad is eliminated. Not bad if I say so myself.